Compared to Rick, Morty seems like an angel. I mean, the kid is ready to save anyone in need, especially if it is a girl.
That poor girl! We have to save her!
But what about a Morty who is bullied by Rick so much that he turns evil? Well, this is where it gets seriously concerning. The kid's only 14 years old, but he's already stacked up a pretty impressive resume, which goes from petty acts that don't really hurt anyone to directly killing and torturing thousands. So, if you've ever wondered what would happen if this guy got charged for his crimes, here's the video for you. Out on a morning like any other, Rick C-137 was having breakfast with his family. Out of nowhere, 3 other Ricks show up and arrest him.
You are under arrest for crimes against alternate Ricks by the authority of the Transdimensional Council of Ricks.
Hey! What the heck?
Neutralize the Jerry.
Wait, no!
27 Ricks have been killed, and they have reason to believe C-137 could be behind all of this.
You think I did this? Why am I the first Rick you pull in every time a Rick stubs his toe? You have a history of non-cooperation with the Council.
Now, we all know Rick has a habit of getting himself into trouble.
I turned myself into a pickle, Morty! Boom!
But, surprisingly, this time he's completely innocent. C-137 didn't want anything to do with the Council of Ricks and found the whole idea of the Citadel to be honestly pretty damn stupid.
We're done with the Citadel of Ricks. I was never on board with it in the first place. That's why I murdered everyone in charge and left it to rot. Oh, that was you.
He's a tortured genius and a lone wolf. What could he need other Ricks for? He didn't, but he had no reason to kill them either. And so, Rick and Morty are taken to the Citadel. But Rick keeps his calm about the whole thing. His hands are clean, and this is all just a big misunderstanding. They'll get to the bottom of it all, right?
Earth Rick C-137, the Council of Ricks sentences you to the machine of unspeakable doom.
Wrong. His portal gun tells us a whole other story. Apparently, he'd gone to all the alternate dimensions around the time when the Ricks were murdered.
But it appears you alone have been going to the exact timelines and locations in which the murders occurred. What?
Now, we can't help but wonder, did he actually do it? C-137 gets sentenced to the machine of unspeakable doom, which will switch his conscious and unconscious brains. But being the rickiest Rick to ever Rick, of course this guy is not going down so easy. He grabs his portal gun and makes his escape. But this is where the real plot twist comes in. The whole thing was set up by Evil Morty. He hacked C-137's portal gun because he knew the other Ricks would check it.
My portal gun was hacked remotely, Morty, obviously by the real killer to frame me.
Now, for this crime, general obstruction of justice, he'd get about 5 years. For tampering with evidence, aka Rick C-137's portal gun, he'd get about 10 years. Besides that, he not only prevented the Council of Ricks from finding Evil Rick, but he tortured Mortys to do it, which makes the sentence even harsher. Obstruction through deception, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence, with a side of potential torture. So, his punishment will probably be the maximum sentence, 20 years, and we're only getting started. Rick and Morty have to clear Rick's name and prove his innocence, so they track down Evil Rick's hideout.
Man, this place is way off the grid. This guy does not want to be found.
But when they get there, they find some pretty messed up things happening. Things that make Evil Morty's last crime look about as serious as littering. He took hundreds of other Mortys and strapped them onto the torture wall of the Matrix to help Evil Rick mask his location.
One Morty's enough to hide from the bureaucrats, but you get a whole matrix of Mortys and put them in agonizing pain. That creates a pattern that can hide even from other Ricks, motherfucker.
They'd been kidnapped and put on the wall by Evil Morty, of course. They soon find Evil Rick and Evil Morty. This is the first time we see Evil Morty. He looks about the same as any other, except he wears a patch over his left eye. It's crazy to think that this little evil genius was once just like any other Morty, being treated badly by Rick and used as a sidekick, while his grandpa suffered from some serious main character syndrome.
Either you're in or you're out, Morty. I'm tired of you weaponizing this half-assed threat. You want out, then fucking quit!
He just got really tired of constantly being told he's stupid and snapped.
Yeah, pal. Rick and Morty. 100 years. Forever.
Get off me! What are you doing?
Which then led him to invent the device that allows him control over Evil Rick's mind. He's cunning, cold, and apathetic. He's got to be the most un-Morty Morty we've ever seen. Evil Rick plans to download C-137's brain and then kill him. In the meantime, Morty is thrown into a cell with a bunch of other Mortys. He convinces his alternate selves to team up and rebel against evil Rick.
We're Mortys! We're not defined by our relationships to Rick! Our destiny is our own!
They kill him, and Rick C-137 calls the council to tell them who really killed the 27 Ricks. Then he disengages the Morty shield, and all the poor broken Mortys fall down, finally free of the constant torture they were being put through. C-137 has been cleared and goes home with his Morty, but the story's far from over. This was just the beginning of Evil Morty's scheming. While investigating the hideout, the Council of Ricks discovered that Evil Rick was actually being controlled by someone remotely, and they have absolutely no idea who. And here comes the big reveal.
This Rick was being controlled remotely, puppeteered by somebody else. This is the receiver. Yeah, but where's the transmitter?
That explains the eye patch. Not gonna lie, it's a little satisfying watching a Morty outsmart not just Rick, but a whole bunch of them. In the real world, the minimum sentence for kidnapping is like 20 years? Since we don't know the exact number of Mortys that were kidnapped, let's keep the estimate at 500 or so. So that would net Evil Morty another 1,000 years. But let's not forget the torture charge coming up next. Let's not forget what these poor Mortys had to go through. Evil Morty created an entire wall of at least a few hundred Mortys to send off a Morty signal that would cover up Rick. Let's be real, if the show hadn't been animated, this bit would definitely be considered one of the most violent and gory things in modern media, period. Of course, being a cartoon does take away from some of its seriousness, but think about it. This was straight up evil, no ifs, ands, or buts. Each Morty was strapped onto a metal frame with electrodes attached to their heads, and there's also giant metal picks repeatedly stabbing their wounds. Their eyes are red and they look like they can't remember the last time they got any sleep. The Mortys' lives are just constant agony, with no breaks. Every waking moment is spent in excruciating pain. We don't really know what the electrodes were for, but a good guess would be that they were either being electrocuted or Evil Morty's torturing them mentally too, making them see unspeakable horrors in their minds while also experiencing similar horrors within their body. I'm starting to see why they call this guy Evil Morty. Torture on its own is a federal crime, and on this level would definitely get Evil Morty a good amount of jail time, 20 years per Morty. So with our estimate of about 500 Mortys and 15 years for each, that adds up to around 7,500 years. But wait, Evil Morty's murders can't go unpunished either. Let's backtrack a bit to when Evil Morty tried to reframe C-137 for the murder of the other Ricks. At first, we thought Evil Rick was the one behind the killings, but his brain was being controlled by Evil Morty, who was pulling all the strings like a puppet master. The only one responsible for these murders was none other than the man himself, Evil Morty. 27 Ricks. Who would have ever guessed a Morty would be able to cause so much destruction? Also, the murders weren't random. They were part of a larger conspiracy to kill Ricks across the dimensions and frame C-137. They weren't just random people. It was a targeted killing spree that spanned different dimensions, so that officially makes this premeditated murder. There was also aggravating circumstances that make the crimes even worse, such as multiple counts and a conspiracy behind it, which would definitely make everything look even worse in front of a judge. In the real world, killing one person and being charged with first-degree murder would be enough for you to spend the rest of your life behind bars. If you get a life sentence, you'd be in jail for 25 years before the possibility of parole, but 27 times? If he doesn't get capital punishment, he'd be looking at 675 years or even more prison time. Oh. But the stakes go way higher with this next one, because Evil Morty has now moved on to targeting society itself. Turns out living a life free from Rick is no easy feat for a Morty, and it can't be done without some big crimes. When he came into power at the Citadel, we quickly found out that he meant business. As soon as the Ricks of the council tell their new president that they'll be the ones really in charge,
Enough off the top.
President Morty has them executed. Are we really surprised though? It's not like he was going to let someone else, especially a bunch of Ricks, call the shots. At this point, what's a few more dead Ricks? He's killed more than 30 Ricks by now. It's literally a Rick genocide. The show's creators mentioned that Morty was designed to be very ordinary and forgettable, and that very ordinariness works perfectly in Evil Morty's favor. It's easy to do such horrible things and get away with them when you're constantly overlooked. It's like one of those true crime docs where you find out that the mild-mannered neighbor was actually a vicious serial killer. They got away with it for so long because they looked harmless and made everyone believe they were sweet and nice. In the life of a Rick, Morty is just background noise, if not an accessory.
Oh, jeez. Well, you'll be happy to know that the council's gone now. Yeah, he knows. He murdered them.
You want to rein in your Morty every day?
Not to say that Rick doesn't care at all about the little guy, he does, but it's hard to deny that Morty's own wishes and personality take a backseat because of Rick and his shenanigans. I can name so many times where Morty was shot down and dismissed as stupid by Rick.
I'm constantly pitching you ideas, Rick, and you act like they're not even worth thinking about.
What, a helicopter lawn chair? That's just something you saw on TV?
As the episode ends, we see everyone who is executed under the new government, aka Evil Morty's corrupt government, floating in space while the mastermind is just chilling.
Now is the time for action.
He killed fellow politicians, and in the real world, that would be classified as assassination, conspiracy to commit murder, and political terrorism. We don't know the exact number of people he killed, or conspired to kill even, but it was a lot. At least 5 to 6 Ricks in power were executed, and then there was that post-credit scene in which we saw more Ricks and Mortys being killed. This would definitely get Evil Morty slammed with at least 30 to 40 more life terms, so unless he dodges the death penalty for this one, he'd be getting an additional 1,000 years. And let's not forget how this guy came to rule over all the other Rick and Mortys in the first place. In the Ricklantis mix-up, we find out that the Citadel has been doing pretty well since the last time we saw it.
What the hell? Oh my god!
It's not just a government anymore, it's a whole society made up of Ricks and Mortys, and they're having elections to appoint their first president.
Just one day remains before our newly democratic Citadel elects its first president. It's anyone's race among the Rick candidates, but a certain other candidate should be getting at least one vote for most adorable.
Most of the candidates are different Ricks, but there's also a Morty in the mix as well. And of course, Morty's not taken seriously at all, and is constantly underestimated and made fun of.
I'd like to offer a rebuttal. Gentlemen, I think we can all agree on one thing. Well, came out as two things, but you get the idea.
You guys finished?
But Morty doesn't let it get to his head, and stays confident that he'll show everyone at the debate. Even when campaign manager Morty tells him he should be terrified, he stays as self-assured as before and walks away, telling the other Morty to have more faith.
I think it's time to pull out of the race. I feel pretty confident about tonight's debate. You shouldn't, sir. You should be terrified. Maybe you should find a little faith, young man.
This was such a red flag because, let's face it, that's not how a Morty would have reacted. I love the little guy, but he's not exactly known for his confidence or charisma, which makes it even more suspicious when Evil Morty gives a great speech, calling out the people who don't have faith in the Citadel, whereas the Rick candidates all fart and make jokes.
From the Ricks and Mortys that believe in this Citadel, to the Ricks and Mortys that don't. You're outnumbered.
And so the underdog takes the lead, but when questioned about his past, he smoothly ignores the question and makes himself look good in the process.
Morty, what's your original reality and where's your Rick?
Gosh, we moved around so much it's hard to remember. I see every Rick as my Rick. I hope they see me as their Morty.
Answered like a true diplomat. But seriously, how did no one run a background check on this guy? After crushing the debate, he fires campaign manager Morty, who unfortunately gets his hands on some very sensitive information. It's about who candidate Morty really is. After learning all this, campaign manager Morty tries to assassinate candidate Morty. The Secret Service Ricks take him into custody and tell him that there's nothing he can do. Morty will become president. He tries to tell them what investigator Rick told him, but they just don't listen and send him off into the vacuum of space.
Morty is not what he seems.
Yeah, well, no Morty seems like a president.
The Citadel changes fast under their new president. The Morty school is shut down, new rules have been put into place, and there's new banners everywhere. So he ran for president but kept his shady criminal past, his original universe, and identity hidden. This is all pretty illegal. It's political identity fraud. Running for office under a fake persona is a serious crime, and it can land you some serious jail time. I know next to his other crimes, this looks as serious as shoplifting, but he'd probably get another 8 years added to his sentence for this, and another 10 years for the identity theft, so it's another 18 years all in all. And all of this leads to the destruction of the Citadel, which is still not Evil Morty's real motive, but just something that has to be done. In Rick, Morty, Jack, Rick and Morty find themselves once again at the Citadel. While they're there, President Morty invites them to go have dinner with him, and they know it's not the best idea, but they go anyway. It's kind of like Superman having dinner with Lex Luthor. They're going into the belly of the beast. Evil Morty asks Rick how he can bring down the central finite curve, which is his main goal, and it makes Rick instantly want to leave.
I got a little project going on, required some hands-on labor. It would require less if you were willing to tell me how one might bring down the central finite curve.
All right, time to go, Morty.
He keeps his lips sealed, but his brain scan was completed while he was eating. Most of it had already been scanned during their last run-in with Evil Morty in Season 1. Rick frees himself and his Morty, then opens a portal so they can leave. Evil Morty seems a bit too relaxed about this, and doesn't try to stop them.
Morty, when you came here for that serum, did you refill this gun?
Yeah.
But right before Rick steps into it, he remembers how last time Evil Morty hacked his portal gun, so instead of stepping into it himself, he threw a guard in just to test it, who was instantly killed. Speaking of hacking, Evil Morty also hacked into the Citadel's central systems, which can count as another crime.
What's happening, Rick?
He hacked the entire city's portal supply. Come on, there still might be one way out of here.
President Morty puts out a broadcast saying, "Nobody leave, everyone stay."
Nobody leave, everybody stay. Nobody leave, everybody stay.
That throws everyone into a panic, and of course, makes them leave. Evil Morty knew Ricks and Mortys the best. An announcement like that was a surefire way of making them pull out their portal guns, which is exactly how everyone's portal gun had been hacked, and whoever tried to leave was killed. After Rick and Morty catch up to him, he completely floods the Citadel with portal fluid by activating its dimensional drive. The entire Citadel is destroyed. Countless Ricks and Mortys have been killed. As if that wasn't bad enough, Evil Morty has also achieved his ultimate goal, destroying the central finite curve. He destroyed Citadel and curve structures and a lot of infrastructure and multiversal barriers that maintained order throughout the dimensions and hacked into the government's internal systems. And all of this at the age of 14. What a promising young evil genius. In the real world, these acts would have Evil Morty charged with domestic terrorism, destruction of federal property, political sabotage, and mass endangerment. This isn't petty crime. Charges like these come with serious prison time. 1 life sentence for each of these. For both the Citadel and the multiversal curve destruction, Evil Morty's prison sentence would be extended by yet another 50 years, or way more if he actually got tried for the murders on top. But let's backtrack a little bit to reveal this guy's most disturbing crime of all. Evil Morty's grand scheme to destroy the central finite curve also had some human experimentation involved. We found out at the end of Season 1 that he was running experiments on hundreds of Mortys to shield Rick's brainwaves from the Council. I already covered just how disturbing that scene was. Reminded me a lot of the human battery pods from the Matrix. Ring any bells? Anyway, enough about red pills and blue pills. We should be talking about Morty here, because he was damn proud of it, that evil variant, calling it a battery of tortured Mortys. That's involuntary human experimentation as a baseline. But wait till you hear about Operation Phoenix. Not Rick's resurrection project, Evil Morty's plan to destroy the Citadel from within. He cloned and genetically programmed countless Rick and Mortys for his own gain. Looks like Rick gets a taste of his own medicine here. When trying to win Morty over and get him to abandon Rick, Evil Morty revealed how disposable Mortys are.
You already know Rogue Ricks used Mortys to hide themselves from the Citadel. But you might not know it worked so well that the Citadel became its own Morty market. And I'm sure you don't know how far they've gone to help supply meet demand.
There's a whole system. When something happens to a Morty, he makes a new one with the old one's memories and sends him over to the lost Morty's Rick. We can't even blame Evil Morty for this one. Remember how when they were leaving the Citadel after clearing Rick's name, the Council of Ricks offered C-137 a voucher for a Morty replacement?
We would like to compensate you with this voucher for a free replacement Morty in the event that your current Morty should... guys?
Evil Morty would go so far as to torture his alternate selves and his clones to live a life free of Rick. He'll stop at absolutely nothing. and it really makes you wonder what his Rick must have done to piss him off that badly. I don't even know where to start with this. Evil Morty would be charged with all kinds of human rights laws, like the Nuremberg Code and Geneva Conventions, as well as the US laws against forced testing. I mean, damn. All this makes the CIA's MK Ultra program look like a day at kindergarten. He could be charged with crimes against humanity, war crimes, biological warfare, and torture. And he was doing all of this for political gain. It's not like he was trying to cure cancer, and so that would get him 200 years or something close to. Wow, that is some rap sheet. Murder, kidnapping, torture, you name it. Dr. Evil's got nothing on this guy. Evil Morty is no less than a criminal mastermind, and at such a young age. Let's tally up his sentences and see how long he'd be put in the slammer for, even though we all know he's way too smart to ever get locked up, and if he did, he'd make it out in seconds. The grand total is 10,463 years.